Exit algorithms. Scale smarter. Sell stronger.
Welcome to Exit Algorithms, the podcast where we decode what it really takes to unlock growth, streamline operations, and prepare your business for a high-value exit. I'm your host, Pete Vera, and today I'm excited to bring on Nikki Barua. She's a serial entrepreneur, best-selling author, keynote speaker, and co-founder of Flipwork, a company helping organizations reinvent how their people work in the age of AI. She's an Ernst & Young North America Entrepreneurial Winning Woman, named one of Entrepreneur Magazine's 100 Most Influential Women, holds 3 master's degrees, speaks 5 languages, and has spent 25 years helping transform global enterprises. Nikki, so excited to have you here. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for inviting me, Pete. I'm so thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I can't wait for this conversation today. I gave a little high level intro of your background, but I'd love to hear from your own words if you can share with listeners your journey through business and what led you to Flipwork.
Yeah. Well, the through line of my entire story, my life and career has been all about reinvention. Every chapter has been facing a massive obstacle and reinventing myself that turned that obstacle into an opportunity. So whether it was me leaving my hometown, growing up in India, and coming to America as an immigrant with no resources, no relationships, and really learning to adapt and figure out how to be successful here, building my corporate career in strategy and transformation, working with some of the world's largest companies, and learning to hold my own in the boardroom when you're surrounded by top executives of the world's biggest companies and you're this young, tiny framed woman in the room. And it teaches you a lot about inner confidence, about having trust and belief in yourself to influence other people and to work really hard to earn your seat at the table. And from there, to at the height of my corporate career, walking away from all of that to pursue my entrepreneurial dreams. And for the last 18 years, been building businesses, and every single business, no matter what the focus or the industry was, the through line for every single business has been really looking at the most important problem facing society at that time and figuring out how I could create impact at scale for that problem. And that's what led me to Flipwork, because the biggest challenge facing humanity right now is AI is disrupting our way of life and work, and the technology is racing ahead and people are getting left behind. And that's what I call the exponential divide. And Flipwork exists simply to close that divide. How can you help people reinvent how they think, live, and work so that we can amplify what makes us uniquely human and not get replaced by technology?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, it seems to be a common theme, and we're gonna talk more about Flipwork and AI, of course. Yeah, no, I just love how you overcome that imposter syndrome, that being a woman and from a different country, and yeah, really impressive. Could we go a little chronologically here? I saw you had a successful business Beyond Curious and had to exit from that. I'd love if you could start, do you mind sharing kind of that journey and if there's any lessons learned from that exit process?
Yeah, I mean, it's that was my first, it wasn't my very first business. There were some smaller ventures I'd started, but it was the first one that achieved a lot of scale and success. And, for all intents and purposes, I was a first-time founder, completely bootstrapped business. And, there's so much you don't know. But sometimes because you don't know it, you're also not afraid to try things. Sometimes ignorance can be bliss because you haven't heard the no's yet. So you just kind of go all in. And that business was really about, I called it like making elephants run, helping large companies innovate at speed. And so we focused on working with Fortune 500 companies that didn't know how to launch product, come up with ideas and take it to market quicker. And we became sort of the incubator, if you will, of taking them from idea to launch in a very short period of time. And it was such a valuable offering that we just grew really fast and won tons of awards for the work that we did and all of that. And it was the best part of that journey for me was just an incredible team that was
Mm.
best in class in every way. And the biggest lessons I learned, the three big ones I would say is um, know your unique zone of genius as a business and really double down on it and say no to everything else. Probably we started off there of operating in our zone of genius, but as the business grew, we started getting more and more opportunities that were sort of more tangential, not really core. And I think that was looking back, it was a mistake because it diluted our energy and focus, because when you
Mm.
start doing a lot of different things, you start hiring different types of skills outside of your core skill set that you want to be known for. So that was certainly one of like really double down on a core. It's not just about core market niche, it's core capability. Do what you do best and be known for it and really double down on it. Number two, having the right people in the right roles at the right time to me is the most fundamental business principle of all. And that answer changes all the time. Someone who was the right person in the right role in Q1 could become the wrong person in that role by Q4. And you
Mm.
have to constantly think about your job as the founder or the CEO is to constantly think about how you're moving people along and ensuring that everyone's in the right place. And then the third biggest lesson is, for yourself, this is a personal one, know when your own passion shifts and your interest shifts. For me, that was a point where this business was an extension of my corporate career. It was similar to what I'd been doing in corporate, except it was my
Mm.
own company. But I realized my passion and interests were expanding in completely new dimensions. And I was no longer the right person to keep leading this company because I knew how to run the business, but that doesn't mean I was still as passionate about the mission and what the business was about. And that
Mm.
became a point of misalignment. And frankly, it led to burnout, like where I experienced a lot of burnout from just feeling misaligned and, decided to, that it was time for an exit. And, you know, and it was the best decision I could have made because it was a great run that would not have stayed that way had I continued to go along. And I find so many founders feel like because it's a business they started, even when they've run out of steam or the interests
Mm.
have diverged, are unwilling to let go. And you have to separate your identity, your own identity, from the identity of your business. You are not your business. And you have to always keep connecting the dots to see whether it's still the right answer.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, no, thank you. That was a lot of good nuggets in there. I think we can wrap the show up now. Really appreciate that. Yeah, one of the things you said really stood out too is finding that signal versus ignoring the noise. I think I got
Yeah.
that concept from, I think, I don't know, Mr. Wonderful talks about that or something, but
Yeah. Well, it takes a lot of deep introspection and self-awareness on your part, but also a level of intellectual honesty, because the thing that always gets in the way is ego and worrying about what other people will say. I mean, I went through that where I was like, well, here I've won all these awards and recognition for this business I started, but I just don't feel the same kind of passion anymore that I did like 15 years ago. It's just not the same. And there's other problems that are really tugging at my heart that I want to do something about. So at one point I explored, could I run multiple companies at the same time? While from management skill standpoint, the answer is yeah, I'm pretty skilled at managing multiple businesses. I could easily do it, but that's not the same as the responsibility as a founder of, you could run multiple companies, but make sure you are equally passionate about each one and not treat one as a stepchild and the other as your favorite child.
got it. That's good
And
advice
where it
too.
ultimately shows up is people and culture, right? Because if the person at the top is less passionate, there's no chance you're going to attract the right people and ask them to give more, than you are willing to.
True. Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. Even if you can do it, it's probably not the best for the business or even the best use of your time.
Yeah, exactly right.
Yeah. So, okay. And then you started Flipwork a few years after. Yeah. So and it's amazing you'll be able to use all of that experience, lessons learned from building a team, like you said, and knowing
Yeah.
when and who to hire. Yeah. Can you talk a bit more about what Flipwork does? Yeah, and what problem is it solving?
Yeah, and having had a career in enterprise transformation and technology transformation over multiple decades, what struck me about the impact of AI was the speed. In previous decades, whether it was the internet revolution or mobile or cloud, each one, there was a little bit more time for companies and people to adapt to that change. You're familiar with, how long e-commerce really took. In fact, it's still growing. And after all of these years, it's still growing. But if someone did not embrace e-commerce back in 1995, it's not like they were going out of business. You could still have a brick and mortar store and still make money and still have customers. It wasn't an all or nothing kind of thing. What's different about AI is it doesn't give you the luxury of time. It's pretty much adapt or die, right? And the
Mm,
speed and scale at which it's happening, it's unnatural for people to adapt to that speed of change. And what became very clear looking at companies was that they were investing in the technology and mandating that their people use it. So here's this new AI tool, or we got ChatGPT licenses, everybody needs to use it to do your jobs. Well, that's great, but that doesn't help people figure out, well, what does that mean? Am I training my replacement? Am I using it correctly? What happens to safety and security and guardrails? Like people didn't know what they were doing. And so adoption was pretty low. And
mm,
then leaders were getting frustrated that we're investing in AI and we're not getting the ROI. What's the gap? Well, the gap is the people adoption part. And that's really why Flipwork exists, because it's flipping the old way and embracing the new way. And it's about reinventing how you think alongside AI, how you work alongside AI, and how you build and do your job and work differently with AI. And it's not simply taking new technology and forcing it in an old process, because that's like putting a Ferrari engine in a lawnmower. It's not going to
mm.
go any faster. You have to reimagine everything in that. And that's a pretty complex process. And it has to be done right because you're really impacting people and culture, not just process and tools. So that's why Flipwork was started. And we've built a proprietary diagnostic and a very unique method of transformation that drives change every 90 days and
Mm.
delivers 8 to 10x ROI in that time frame. So it's been extremely successful and very, very effective.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. That makes perfect sense. Adapt or die. It's
Yeah.
a good phrase. Wow. So, and it's a perfect opportunity. I agree. It's changing so quickly, you can barely keep up.
Yeah.
Even the agents, how quickly they changed just in the last, what, 2 months,
I
changed
mean, now we are
significantly.
like past talking about Gen AI. Like generative AI was great and people are having fun at it. But now suddenly, managers are leading hybrid teams of humans plus AI agents. Well, that changes even your job as a manager. Like you have to understand how to lead humans and machines. That changes who your coworker is and how you collaborate. And when you no longer need to give instructions to AI and it just does the work, that's pretty game changing. And we're seeing that in the headlines, right? Like there's not a week that goes by where there's not massive layoffs or stock price that is impacted. Various industries are seeing just the absolute sort of volatility that this is causing. And from an investment standpoint, I mean, it's also impacting investors because they don't know like how to accurately value a business. I mean, SaaS stocks have been, really all over the place. But if you have a holding, if you've got holdings in your portfolio, I mean, that's a pretty significant decision you have to make about, the right timing and level of investment to make to upgrade your portfolio. Or you end up with holdings that are frankly becoming more and more worthless as every week goes by.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. A lot to look out for. Almost too much to keep up.
Yeah, it is. And that's the most common sentiment that everybody is feeling, no matter how experienced and advanced they are. The most common thing we hear is overwhelmed. Every day there's something new that's happening, and I don't know how to keep up. And I feel like I'm getting left behind and becoming more and more irrelevant, even though, yes, I do use ChatGPT. I do, try to keep up with AI, but I just don't know how to make sense of it all because it's happening so fast. I feel like I'm spinning in circles, going nowhere.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and how do you navigate that change?
Yeah.
And yeah, it's a great moment in time here with Flipwork. You're growing it, you're scaling. How is that process so far, and where do you see Flipwork going in the next few years?
For us, we are truly an AI native company. So it's really interesting to build a business this time, in the context of AI, because how I built businesses in the past was so different compared to this time. Every single aspect of the business, we had to look at it from the lens of how should it be designed, given that AI already exists. And in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be massively different. So how do you to the degree that you can, how do you make decisions and choices that give you the highest leverage and speed? So that was, every single choice was very intentional of designing around speed and agility. That's it. It wasn't about like heft, and domination was all about how can we be the most agile in terms of adapting to any kind of change because we can't predict the change, but we have to be designed in an agile way. And so our core focus is really becoming the most trusted thought leader in the space of people-driven AI transformation. And that's why we're focusing on media content, on white papers and publishings through our proprietary diagnostic, on collaborations with universities and researchers, and really certifying experts in our methodology that allows them to provide this transformation to different industries and different companies globally, because that also allows us to scale in a very different way. I think the world ahead is extremely uncertain for anyone to make any kind of reasonable prediction. The only thing you can prepare for is to design yourself for change and adapt quickly. And our goal is to do that for our clients and to also live that ourselves.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that too. It's funny as you're advising clients, you're also
Yeah.
applying the same strategies and techniques.
Yeah, like we don't have long-term plans because it makes no sense. Like, how can you possibly have a 5-year plan? I don't even know what the world's going to look like in 5 years. Will there even still be jobs? I don't know. What does a company look like? We're sort of moving away from the industrial era kind of, hierarchical model. So if it looks different, do our services change? What do we provide at that point? So everything's going to be so different. So our approach is following the exact same model as our clients. We use our own diagnostic on ourselves. We
Mm.
operate in 90-day sprints. Everything we do is around a 90-day sprint. And
Uh,
we move really, really fast in terms of execution and keep everything, um, you know, uh, uh, really asset light, like
mm.
fixed asset light. And that gives us flexibility. So we want high valuation and lightweight movement.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Keep it agile and
Yeah.
nimble as you grow. Yeah, and I find that topic fascinating of the intersection of humans and machines as you grow. I mean, of course, you've noticed one team member can now accomplish the work of perhaps three or four, depending on the
Yeah.
role. How do you assess that? Or maybe it might be helpful if you share at a high level what that framework is, that 90-day sprint.
Yeah. Well, first of all, even for our own team, right? I mean, every single person on the team is really sort of agentic, if you will. Like everybody has mastered like how to work with not just AI, but with agents, multiple agents that do many parts of the job function. So it's almost like 10xing each person's capacity. It's like one person's doing 10 people's jobs with that. But outside of that, every function we have a whole team of AI agents doing like every single function. There's just so much agentification in our business. It's kind of wild to see them even collaborate with each other, right? Like one function talking to another function and like getting things done. And it's really having the humans as oversight for that process. And the path to getting there now, does every team start there on day one? Absolutely not. So the starting point is usually like, what's your current state, your business as usual of how you've always done the work. So in that 90-day time frame, the first thing we do is start with that diagnostic that helps us figure out the baseline of the current state. Where are they in terms of their workflows, their tools, their mindset, the behaviors, the collaboration methods, even their leadership trust, and all of those things. So that helps us understand kind of where are they today. And from there, every week they go through a step-by-step process that's very guided so that they feel safe in that process instead of feeling like they got thrown off the deep end and this is how I used to do. Now I don't know how I'm supposed to do all this new stuff. Every week they it's almost like a capstone project. Like you kind of go step by step, take this action this week. Let's work on changing this piece. So by the end of the 12 weeks, they've completely transformed how they work and how they work themselves, but also how they collaborate with their teams. And they build their own agents during that time. And so now they've not only developed higher skill set, but they themselves have built AI agents that give them more leverage. But most importantly, they now trust that agent because they built it. Nobody forced it on them. And so it's almost like, oh, that's my clone, right? Now I've got 2 or 3 clones helping me and I can move to higher value work instead of doing the grunt work. And now I trust this process because I created it, so the adoption is higher, the productivity is higher, and the ROI is off the charts.
Wow. I love that. Thank you. That's really helpful hearing the psychology mindset around AI implementation as you grow and scale.
Yeah, and trust plays such a big role because what we're really asking people to do is everything you've done your whole career, it doesn't matter anymore. Throw it out the window and start trusting this machine that is smarter than you, faster than you, cheaper than you, and teach it everything you know. Well, the most immediate fear that comes up is if it's already better and cheaper and faster than me, and I'm telling it what I know, why are you going to need me? You're going to replace me. And so I don't want to teach it things because I'm basically training my replacement. And even if that doesn't happen, it's a natural fear to have. The only way you get past that is if you are able to discover that value yourself and co-create with the machine. So that's why the people first aspect is so powerful because it reverses that fear and turns it into empowerment.
I love that. Yeah. Wow. I just got done reading that book by Jeff Woods, the AI driven leader. He talks exactly about that phenomenon. You have your early adopters that are going to adopt it quickly no matter what. I think it's like 10% or something.
Yeah, and our diagnostic actually identifies who is what archetype. So we know who the early adopters are. We know who the ones are that are like the resistors and like that are resisting the change. And so what that does is not putting a label on them. What it really helps us do is figure out how to meet them where they are and how to speak to them in ways that resonate with them. Because if someone is resisting change, telling them, well, if you don't adopt quickly, you're going to get fired, that's not going to be helpful. But if you help to unpack the real fears and like help to figure out what will allow them to overcome that resistance and actually embrace AI, then you can get the change a lot faster.
Got it. Yeah.
And so that entire 90-day process is unique based on their archetype. So because that diagnostic identifies what their profile is, then it takes them every day, every week, they go through a step-by-step journey designed for their archetype.
I see. Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask, where do you see organizations go wrong mostly when they try to adopt AI? Is it that they're trying to do kind of a blanket adoption
a few things that are very common. Number one, investing in the technology before the people are ready for it. Number two, introducing a one-size-fits-all training that's just generic, like learn about generative AI, right? Like use these prompt structures. Well, that teaches someone how to use the machine, but it doesn't help someone trust the machine, and so generic AI training also does not consider the unique needs of different types of people, their different personas and archetypes. And the third mistake that is made is the focus is again on the usage of the tool, not the rewiring of the process. The process actually makes a much bigger difference. So you think about a logistics process, right? Like every step of that process, there's a certain way it's been done. So imagine just slapping AI technology on top of that without considering, well, what part of the underlying workflow needs to be like changed so that this fits in seamlessly into it. And so that's one of the biggest mistakes is the workflows don't change. It's just kind of automating. And when you automate the wrong process or an inefficient process, you're still not going to get results. So Blockbuster did not become, couldn't have become Netflix just by throwing internet on top of a video store, right? Netflix was an entirely different kind of business. And so that's really what this is about.
Yeah, oh, great answer. We're gonna have some great clips from this episode, man. So yeah, and we can talk a little more about AI tools in general. There's so many tools now available. How do you recommend a company separate the wheat from the chaff and choose the right tool?
Yeah, I mean, it really comes down to there's enterprise level choices, right? Like, whether it's choosing Microsoft Copilot or Gemini or Claude or, there's the LLMs and the enterprise level choices that a company has to make. But beyond that, everything comes down to functional choices. What are the best tools for marketing? What are the best tools for sales or for finance or legal? So that changes depending on the functional area. And for us, I mean, we are unbiased and sort of not connected to any of the tool sets. So the way we approach it is more about like any vendor assessment or tool assessment. Is it stable enough that it's going to fit into your overall enterprise stack? Is there enough viability for this? And how does it fit into how you already do the work and finding the best match within that? But at the end of the day, I mean, there's no end to like the number of tools that are just available in the market, and they're all frankly pretty affordable. So the tool decision, even if you make a wrong decision, it's not that hard to like replace it and start off with something new. The bigger question is, what is your core business objective that you want to achieve? And that should drive the tool decision. Don't start with the tech. Don't go fall into the shiny object syndrome of someone came and pitched us a great tool and so we just bought licenses. What is your business priority and how can AI help you achieve it? That's it. And focus every single thing you do based off of that North Star.
Love it. Yes. Oh man, yeah, finding the result you want to have first,
Yeah.
and yeah, not trying to fit AI in just because
Because otherwise you just have a warehouse full of, AI tools that are sitting unused because it doesn't match your business goals.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. Yeah, how are you using AI personally?
So I have a team of AI agents that do a lot of different things, different areas that I use it for. And because of the nature of what we do, we're constantly trying new things. So that's almost like part of my daily workflow is constantly trying out new tools. But some of my core personal productivity ones are all around meeting planning, note taking, and automatically like not just recording. Like, I mean, the basic thing is like meeting recorders and things like that, but building an agent that not only knows my calendar and what meetings are coming up, helps me prepare, does the research, presents me the meeting prep document. During the meeting, it records the meeting. After the meeting, it checks back with the meeting prep objective and the actual meeting and the next steps, and then puts those next steps into my, task manager and, sets reminders on my calendar and like does that whole thing without me pushing any buttons, right? So that kind of thing takes everything to the next level. And then a lot around market research and, client research and things like that, where it's daily reports that show up, ready for me to review based on the agent's objective. And it produces executive summaries and PowerPoint presentations for me. to also doing things like providing like team updates and like we often like one of the tasks that always takes time is like meeting, one-on-one meetings and next steps and performance and providing company updates and all of that. Turning that into an HR agent that can do all of that stuff where your focus is not on all of the preparation and all of the information gathering, but really on the relationship.
Wow, incredible, man. Yeah, I'm glad I asked that question. It sounds like it's basically a high level executive assistant.
It's more like a chief of staff, actually, like a chief of staff that like keeps every project moving along, keeps everything organized and makes sure things are getting done without me having to remind or check in or worry about something falling off. And the best part is when it's connected to all your like Google Drive or your folders, it's also looking for documents there, but it's also producing documents and placing it there. So, there's literally zero touch point. Like everything is just automatically done.
Yeah, incredible. Do you have a specific tool or tool set that you use every day? Is Claude your
Yeah.
go-to for agents? Yeah.
So the one that we love actually is Chat Hub because it combines all different LLMs together, like through one, prompt. It sends the same prompt to Claude, ChatGPT, Gemini, and all of that, and the Perplexity. And so in one window, you can see responses from all four of them and kind of not only get different views, but kind of see which one provides better results for what you're looking for. So that instantly provides better responses. But then Claude Cowork is great for building agents, Lovable, Granola. I absolutely love Granola. I mean, there's just so many that, like, frankly, part of our standard tool set now that it's kind of funny to like have so many things in there. But, at one point I was even thinking as a business owner, you start looking at like your subscription costs start piling up, right? Like you're paying for this, paying for that, like
Yeah.
and all of that. And at one point I was like, man, we're signing up for so many of these and that everybody's constantly using. Like, I wonder how high our costs are. But the reality is that productivity we're getting out of using all of this was when we kind of did an estimate, it's equal to 50 FTE. And so if you look at like even let's just say a basic like average $100,000 salary, right, for 50 FTE, well, compared to that, we were all in spending barely like, I don't know, all in for the year, maybe about 20 grand in comparison. So, like, think about the ROI of that, right? And what does that mean for business owners? If you're not leveraging this kind of setup, think about not only how much money you're leaving on the table, but someone out there like me is building a business to compete with yours that is going to outcompete you in terms of growth and profit and speed while you're still doing things the old way. That's the thing to think about. It's not so much about, I don't know if I'm ready for AI or I don't know if my people adopt it. The real question you have to think about is every day that you are not AI ready, you're being outcompeted by someone who is building an AI native business that is operating at an entirely different scale, speed, and profit that you can't even fathom.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It comes back to that adapt or die you said earlier.
It really is. And frankly, one thing, even for me personally, learning this was eye-opening. You don't discover how much is possible until you roll up your sleeves and actually do it. So if you're just still at the prompting stage where that's all you do and use it like your chat buddy, you have no concept of what agentic AI or like going even further than that, context graphs and other things can do for you. You have no idea. It's truly like the only way to gain competency in this is by doing it. There's no shortcuts. There's no books to read. There's no videos to watch. You just have to stop being a bystander, roll up your sleeves, start building, gaining experience. And then what it really does is unlocks ideas that you have, right? Like it gave
Mm.
me like until I started myself, but not just my engineers, but like me myself started like building things and thinking about things. It gave me ideas on things I hadn't considered before. And I was like, huh, this is something that I do. Like, here's an opportunity that we have that I hadn't even thought of. And now I can apply this. So it unlocks your imagination and makes you more innovative by becoming your co-pilot, your co.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Thought partner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible. Such great insights today. I know we could probably talk all day,
Yeah.
but we're coming up on time here. There's a few things I wanted to be sure to ask. One is, you're a best-selling author as well. It's impressive how much you've been able to get done in your career so far. Just what is the secret to getting so much done? How do you structure your day and work week?
Focus. And what I mean by that is saying no to a lot of things. So not in focus, a lot of times people think it's about what you choose to do. For me, it's what you choose not to do. At a macro level, being absolutely clear about what my North Star is. And so that mission and purpose drives everything else. So even though it seems like, oh, I have like multiple businesses and I'm speaking and writing and I have a weekly newsletter and I like do all of these things, but they're not different things. They're all different ways of expressing the same thing. They're all built around the same purpose. So there's no diffusion of purpose. The purpose remains the same of the impact I want to create. They're just expressed through writing or speaking or building or leading a team and building products and so forth. So that's, and anything that falls outside of that purpose is a hard no, and being
Mm.
disciplined about it. At a micro level, what that looks like is being really organizing my days around my energy and like how I like to work. So, for example, like Fridays are my writing days, and I don't do any meetings on Fridays. I don't take on any kind of client work on Fridays. It's just thinking and writing days. Mondays are internal team days and catching up on every function and all of that. So, like, really designing around that. And I never, ever, ever multitask. I don't believe in multitasking. So, just deep focus applied to something and then moving on to the next thing. But yeah, so
Great tips. Yeah, it's funny. We started the podcast talking about focus as
yeah,
well, and
yeah.
it's coming full circle. Uh,
Yeah, it's we underestimate the value of not just, knowing your focus, but knowing the why behind your focus. When you kind of, when you have total clarity on that to say, this is the thing I want to dedicate myself to, and here's why it matters, all the distractions go away. It really is, it simplifies every decision because you just know. And even if you're sort of diverging from that, you're doing it with intention as opposed to doing it subconsciously and unaware.
yeah, right. Yeah, being reactive to it. Yeah, macro focus. A through line through all your projects, and then micro each day and even each hour.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's really how are you moving every project along, and I set kind of, timelines of when I'm going to do something. Like I'm working on a new book now, and I've set a timeline of when I expect the draft to get done. But then I break that big problem into like smaller commitments. So like this week I have to get this, 1,000, 1,200 words written on this topic. That like everything feels achievable when you kind of break down big goals into smaller action items. And every week, my objective is just to keep moving things along, just solve the problems in any of those dimensions and just keep moving things along.
Love it. Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing. I know we got to wrap it up here. So many good nuggets, so much good information this episode. Where can listeners find out more about Flipwork or about yourself?
Yeah. Well, I'd recommend checking out flipwork.ai. We've got a lot of great resources. You can also take the diagnostic there to get your own personalized report. So go to flipwork.ai. And if you want to get my weekly newsletter where I share a lot of reinvention strategies and adapting to AI, check out nikkibarua.com where you'll find all of my content and everything from podcasts to newsletters available there.
Awesome. I'll leave that in the show notes. Thank you so much for your time today, Nikki.
Thanks for having me, Pete.
Exit algorithms. Scale smarter. Sell stronger.